Hi guys, welcome to episode 6 of Ikebukuro West Gate Park. This is the episode I have been waiting for. This is definitely the turning point. My alliance has been shaken. I'll talk about it when we get there. So this is the episode I almost hoped last week would have been, because obviously I threatened to stop airing on this one and stop reviewing it. I came back in after changing my mind on a bit of a hard episode to break down. This is an amazing episode, and this is the episode which definitely turns everything on its head. First things first, guys, I have a Discord server for the channel. It is quiet right now. It is hopefully the building blocks of what is to come. So as we grow as a channel, I'm hoping to definitely use the server a lot more for channel purposes. I don't have enough of a view account. I don't have access to the community tabs, and I can't tell you if there's a delay. For that kind of information, I'm going to be using Discord. I did use Discord recently to announce a slight delay on one of my videos. Definitely go ahead, check it out. We also have a new segment. The new segment is the anime question of the week. This week's question is, who is your favourite redhead character? Which is ironic, as there is definitely a redheaded character in Ikebukuro West Gate Park. He's not my favourite, so he won't be the one I talk about, but that is the new feature. So every week on all the video releases of that week, I'll be asking a question. Your question's up on the screen right now. You guys can comment below, tell me your answers. The week after, pick out my favourite, air you guys live, so you get a bit of a shout out, and I'll talk about what you said was your favourite, and then I'll tell you what my favourite is. That is the new feature. And let's kick off this week's episode. We start with what sounds like Pavarotti. I'm like 80% it's Pavarotti, and we've got this operatic singing, and it's quite creepy. And then we see a man in a bunny mask just staring at a car, where the guys get out of the car because obviously the guy in a bunny mask isn't getting out the road. And it turns out to be quite a brutal breakdown, quite a graphic scene. I'm going to have to be very careful with this episode. YouTube will definitely have me if I have too much of this up. So we'll be sticking to a few longer shots of the normal stuff. But again, you guys saw the episode, you know as well, it's a pretty brutal episode. We've had serious moments up until this point, but this week's episode, the serious tone is turned up to 11. It's very eerie, where the music contrasts what you're seeing. So you've got Pavarotti, which is definitely meant to be powerful, but it's not supposed to be dark and scary, but it turns out to be quite jarring because something just doesn't quite fit about the music and the visuals. We end up seeing guys in these creepy animal masks beating up what I presumed at the time was G-Boys anyway. I do like as well how the scene is shot, where we've got this beautiful bokeh, all the lights. It's a nighttime sequence, so the bokeh of the lights. We get a lot of contrasting going on. So a beautiful image, quite a violent scene. Beautiful music, very violent scene. Quite nice the way it's shot. And we cut straight into the OP from these sirens blaring. So the sirens start to blare and the OP starts to play. Do like that transition. Really like that transition. And we cut to something which definitely didn't fit with the open, where Makoto apparently trying to buy porn, but not just once, but twice and 3 times. And this whole section, I have a feeling it's meant to be very important, and I'm hoping it will cut, because this is a 2-parter. So today's episode is G-Boys Winter War Part 1. Obviously, it's part 1, so next week's going to hopefully be the continuation. This little segment now, what we're about to go into with Makoto being on the film crew, just doesn't fit the rest of it, but I have a feeling they've put it in just to trying to break the seriousness of the episode and trying to make sure it's not too heavy. I do think if you took this stuff out and you just had like these men getting beaten up and this war going on, I think it would be too heavy. We're shooting with a independent film company. A man who owns a rental shop is trying to save his business. So he's taken one last stab. He's gambled everything on trying to make a film to save his business. All I could think of during this sequence was blockbusters. I don't know if they were on the Asian side of things, but people in the US, people in the UK, we remember the legacy that was Blockbusters. Blockbusters ends up shutting down because of the DVD, because of things like downloading. I guess the demand of renting things just kind of fell down, and rest in peace Blockbusters, it's no more. We also see that poor Makoto isn't the best actor in the world, and it is a take 6 where he's struggling to remember his lines, where we also meet Crow, who is a G-Boy movie fan. He then asks Makoto when they're outside taking a break if he heard about what happened last night, where Makoto's like, is it a rumour? So whether this thing's starting to rattle around like a bit of a rumour, who knows? We find out that Hiroto's faction, which is the number 2, I'm going to talk about him in a bit in a minute. I think he was the biggest surprise for me, but I guess I wasn't keeping an eye out properly, that Hiroto's faction, which is called the Yamato Gale, were attacked by the men in the masks, aka this man calling himself Shadow. And that is what we saw in the open. Hiroto faction believes that King was the one who set it up. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, ooh, this is gonna get spicy. And do bear in mind that my feelings on King, if you have been watching from day one, I like King's design. I find him quite swag. And if he was played by anybody else, I probably would be a huge fan of him. However, the voice actor being Shigaraki from Boku no Hero, I don't like Shigaraki, and I know it's bad. I do separate him out as a different voice actor, but at the same time, I can't get over my hatred for Shigaraki, and I'm just on edge of the guy. But I do like King. However, I also have a curse, and I'm going to introduce you to my curse. If I fall in love with an anime character, it either means they're A, evil, B, they're going to die. This is a pattern which seems to follow. If I like somebody, I'll go, that character's nice. Turns out next minute they're dead. Next minute they're evil. It's one of the two. I'm going to say, because I'm restricting myself from liking King, I'm hoping it negates the curse. Let it be known right here, right now, I am not 100% behind King. I will get to it when we get a bit further down. I'm just not 100% backing King. Let's just say that. We find out from Crow as well that Hiroto, who is the number 2 for King, which we've seen him a few times. He was involved in the drug episode number 1. We've seen him a few times floating around. That apparently he actually has an axe to grind with King, and he wants to take King's place. He issues King a warning, so he thinks King is the one who is attacking his men. I'm just shocked. The thing I am most of this episode, I'm shocked it's the number 2 of King, because every time we've seen him, he seems to be quite a cool-headed guy, and he's always around King, so I figured that they at least were on the same page. But it seems like that it actually isn't that case, and Hiroto actually really doesn't like King all that much. That's the thing which shocked me the most, I think, of the episode. Considering the title of the episode is G-Boy's Winter War, I think we have the war. So if I was ever in doubt that there would be a war, look at the title, definitely going to be one. We then cut again to another attack from the animal men in the mask. Like I said, I'm trying not to show too much of these attacks. All you really need to know of these attacks is they are really brutal. Like, they don't hold back. And the men, apparently, they get attacked to the point that you can't recognise them. They are beaten beyond recognition. We cut back to filming, back on our set, where we also note the camera setup for the making of a video. I just wonder if, or this whole video thing, the whole film crew thing, it sticks out. But it makes me wonder, does it stick out enough that we're going to come back to this filming thing being an important role? I wonder if the way we're going to lure out Shadow is something to do with this. So mark my words that if it does come back, I definitely called it. Crow informs Makoto again there's been another attack. What makes it even harder for me to back King 100% is King doesn't answer any calls that Makoto is making to him. And I've even said, it's a bit sus. It's just a little bit sus on King's part, because at the very least, he could text him or say something, or just, he could say something. And I know his excuse is he doesn't want to drag Makoto into this. I can't buy it as a complete answer, but if you ask me, do I believe it's King? I'm like, 90% it's not him. But there is this small 10% which makes me go, it could be. Not out of the reach that my curse hasn't been negated, and King is going to turn out to be evil. So if that happens, we blame my curse. I am cursed when it comes to liking certain characters. Makoto says we need to avoid a war at all costs. Makoto then calls a man named Saru, and we haven't met this guy before, but it does turn out that he is the king of all grudges. He holds a grudge with Makoto that he apparently owes him 500 yen, which technically is the equivalent of £5, so it's not even a huge amount of money. It turns out that Makoto forgets to do his homework, and he begs Saru for his help, and he does help him for the amount of 500 yen. They start to talk about the attacks, which makes Saru's boss really nervous, where he says his boss is worried that the balance is going to go out of whack. And we do hear this word brought up a few times this episode. It's all about balance. Balance unlimited, not quite. I wish it was balance unlimited. See, we start to understand about how the underworld around Ikebukuro works. Things are going to get very spicy. We do learn about the different groups that are keeping everything in balance. Obviously, we've got the G-Boys, we have the Red Angels, things like that going on. Saru equates everything to an empire. He says King is number one. There is multiple underworld factions, and obviously G-Boys is the biggest one. The G-Boys and King are holding balance to Ikebukuro. And we also find out that Donglong, so we heard about them last episode, they are back a little bit, in a sense. We do get to hear a repeated name, so they weren't just an episodic thing. We also find that they're also under surveillance now because Shanghai is keeping tabs on them, so they are still on the scene. We still get to hear about them. Who is Shadow? That is probably the most important question right now, where we find out he is the highest ranking go-getter in the underworld, where he'll do jobs for a very high price, and it doesn't matter what the job is. And the big question is, did King hire him? Saru asks, who holds a grudge with King? Who holds a grudge with King where Makoto is even like, good luck narrowing down that massive list. I can imagine King's head is on a lot of people's hate lists. The thing which stops me 100% thinking it's King is just the way Makoto doesn't believe it's King. He says that the King wouldn't do it, and neither would the Red Angels. But I do say that King's silence doesn't help paint him in a good light. Makoto, being the hero of justice that he is, he wants to stop the war. Even Saru is like, you are dealing with Shadow. Be careful not to get yourself killed, because this is serious. And there is a sequence which definitely made me very worried for Makoto. Typical Makoto, I didn't believe he would do it, but it turns out that he's going to do it again. He leaves Saru with the bill for his coffee. We cut to a picture of a very blood red sunset. If you're following things like my Moriarty the Patriot, whenever you see red, it normally means a warning. It's a sign that blood's going to be spilled, and obviously blood is being spilled left, right and centre in this episode alone. Makoto finally meets Knight, or Hiroto, who is now calling himself Knight, which is the number 2 for King. Also quite interesting to find out that he has actually got a Knight tattoo on his arm. We find out a bit more about Hiroto's section of the G-Boys, where they make up 30% of the group. But he says himself, what are the chances of repeat attacks on the 30% happening again and again? Well, it's low. It's low unless it's planned or it's been done deliberately, which I do believe it is deliberate. I think the attacks are deliberate. And Makoto tries to reason with him. He's like, it could be anyone. It could be somebody who's got, a grudge against you. Knight definitely blames King. We see Makoto trying his best to try reasoning. He's like, informs him that Shadow is a freelancer and King wouldn't hire somebody so dangerous. I am going to trust on Makoto in this one. I think at the end of the day, I'm putting trust in Makoto because I believe Makoto. I like Makoto and I believe him. So if Makoto trusts King, I guess I will. But it's going to be very sad to see Makoto have his trust shattered if it is King. It does turn out that Knight really doesn't really care who did it. At the end of the day, he really does need an excuse just to take on King. I don't know, that itself kind of raises a bit of an issue with me because it's like, well, you should be interested in learning the truth. So Makoto offers to reveal who did it, and he says just don't do nothing until that point, where Knight is like, fine, but next attack I won't consider it a coincidence and war is coming. Makoto even says, do you think you'd win a war against King and the G-Boys? I'm not gonna go easy just like he does, where it almost infers that King goes easy. King doesn't go all in, or King takes things a little bit easy. That, to be fair, could be the bit of evidence that kind of swings that last 10% of my doubt, because Knight even says, I won't go easy like he does. I think it says more about King than anything else if he is going easy. And we end on him stating, we are fighters. We cut to Makoto, unable to reach King, which Isegai appears. Makoto calls him to the aquarium, which again is the number 2 for Red Angels. I likened Isegai and Makoto essentially to being almost the same character in their retrospective groups. They definitely play the same role. And I like Isegai. I think Isegai is awesome. They are aware of what's going on, so they know what it is. And I even ask, do you think it's us? Where Makoto says, I want to hear that for myself from Koichi. We get our boy Koichi appearing. And he says, we are not involved. We have no reason to be involved. We don't want to rage a war. To be fair, he raises some really valid points. I am 90% it's not the Red Angels. There you go. Same with King. I'm 90% with both of them. I don't want to expose my men to danger. And again, they did actually help out with OK Holdings. So we have seen the Red Angels help before. I'm probably more reluctant to trust the Red Angels than I am to trust King. And that probably is going to be damning words when we find out what happens. And sure, Becca made a bad call. Koichi does say, if sparks fly our way, we will have to brush them off. So if we bleed even a single drop, we will show no mercy. It's one of those moments where you're like, oh no, because like I like these guys, but again, I guess if somebody is attacked on their team, then they're not going to stand by and let that just happen. So we might end up going up against Red Angels. The only thing which gets me nervous is in the OP, we see Koichi up against King, and we haven't seen that yet. So there is a possibility at some point Koichi is going to go up against King, and that does make me nervous. And again, that doesn't help my suspicion levels. And this is the eerie scene, which really got my blood pumping. I was like, oh no. At the end of the day, Makoto is my favourite character. And me seeing Makoto in this sense was like, I don't want to see him beaten up. We see him walking alone where he starts to hear 2 sets of footsteps. And he looks around and he can kind of see just feet in the light. So it's a really dark alley and we've got just the single shafts of light from these streetlights. And it's quite creepy where he breaks into a sprint to then turn around and see nothing. And whoever really is following him manages to get the slip and appear ahead of him, where we only see their shoes. And it's creepy. It really is creepy where they walk away. It really is just a threat to Makoto. It's basically a threat to saying, look, I can have you whenever I want. And Makoto does look spooked. He looks really spooked. He freaks out. The attention is broken by a phone call, finally from King. To be fair, the anime could be setting this up on purpose. It's just the timing, the fact that Makoto is spared almost with this phone call from King. When he finally meets up with King, King asks him what's wrong, where he kind of goes, well, are you kidding? I was stalked, and he tells him about the stalker situation. And he's like, well, I guess you've heard about Shadow. And then he also goes, at least pick up the phone when I call you. King raises the question, why would they follow you? King also isn't shocked that Hirato would do this, so he doesn't seem shocked when we find out that Hirato thinks it's King, and King, obviously there's a war about to brew. We get some information from King's point of view that Hirato lacks the experience, and he also doesn't have a good partner. Whether that is a nice little nod to Makoto, perhaps. We cut to another attack. This time it's 2 attacks at once. King says, I didn't call you because I didn't want to get you involved. And so I don't know if I can keep you safe. I really hope it's not you, King, because that's a really nice thing to say. And it makes me happy to know that he thinks of Makoto like that. But at the same time, if you broke Makoto's heart, I am after you. And this pisses off Makoto, where he's like, you're underestimating me. And if you keep talking, I'm going to punch you. Where it's like, we take risks together because that's what friends do. And how many people can you really rely on? Well, we cut again to more images of the brutal attacks. I'm not showing it because I don't need to show it. There's a lot of blood flying around. YouTube would have me. It's again that contrast. We're seeing quite a touching moment between King and Makoto, interrupted by these brutal images of these attacks. And we get King going, you are a bona fide idiot, but you're also my buddy. Find out who Shadow is and where he is. And he says, if we find him, I'm going to go up against him. So we're going to finally see Shadow versus King. Makes me really nervous because of the OP. Makoto says, fine, but you can't make a move against Hiroto until we find out what the truth. Did even put underneath, this might be quite difficult because they literally just got attacked. And Hiroto said, I'm going to next time they're attacked, I won't take it as a coincidence. So Hiroto is probably going to be attacking King, where he's going to have to make a move to in the self-defense, if anything. King does shake, and he does say, I promise not to make any moves. I want to believe you, really badly want to believe you. And he then goes, never tell the G-boys that I shook your hand, and if you do, I'm going to, smash up your skull. I'm like, okay. I love you, but you've got a temper. Where Makoto and King get simultaneous calls. Makoto is told that Hiroto's men are attacked, whilst King is told that Donglong's men are attacked. This time there were 2 attacks. They both head to the site of the Donglong attack because it was closer. But we do get a suspicious cut of Isegai walking from the Red Angels. Makoto then gets a second call where the director asks, where are you? I think the plot with the director might feel abstract. It might feel like it really doesn't fit in this anime. But I am wondering if the anime is doing that on purpose. And this whole section with the direct film and the rentals, I think it might come back to play in importance. So I am still keeping an eye on that. Crow appears, where we see Knight blaming King for sending Shadow after his men. Knight even says, you're the only person who's going to profit from crushing me. Makoto interjecting, saying that this time Donglong was attacked, but Knight really doesn't care. He doesn't care anymore. King even says, there is a beast calling himself Shadow on the prowl. Somebody wants the G-Boys to go to war, and things are now getting messy because they've made a move against Donglong. Somebody wants to break the balance. We hear this word again, balance. Balance has been brought up a few times. It's all about balance. And somebody is aware of the weak spots, and that is you, Hiroto. At this point, I was a wee bit confused. I was like, is he blaming Hiroto for all this? Or is he calling Hiroto the weak spot? I think it's more likely that he is calling him the weak spot. The weak spot is Hiroto. Makoto informs Hiroto that King promised not to make any moves until they know the truth. We see Makoto acting like a mediator. He is neutral. He's trying to take a neutral path. I don't think it really happens when Hiroto is really angry like he is. And he even says, I'm going to track down Shadow and find out who hired him. Hiroto says, after tonight, I'm out of the G-Boys. I don't take orders from you, and I'm going to make my own plans. The war has started. No, it's the worst possible outcome. Also plants it in my head that it is possible that Hiroto's doing it, but at the same time, I never got that feeling with him, and he wouldn't attack his own men, so I don't think it is Hiroto, but at the same time, I'm annoyed that he's not thinking smart enough. At the end, we get a very odd shot of Koichi. We see the cats hissing in the park, and we get that shot of Koichi, which at the end of this episode, my suspicion levels for each of the groups is at different amounts. So the questions I've got is, who is Shadow? We need to know who the hell he is. So that is the biggest question from the episode. Is King innocent? Is it Hiroto? Is it King? Is it the Red Angels? Or is it this Kanzai group that we have seen a few times rear their ugly heads? And is it possibly them? But who is behind the Kanzai group? So we haven't got enough information even there. I am 90% that it's not King. But he is not helping himself. King isn't helping himself by appearing very suspicious and the fact that he doesn't say a great deal. I have seen animes do this before where they want you to believe it's a certain person. If you are a wholly informed noodling and you have read the manga or you've watched the live action, do not say anything. We are going to try and work it out together. I think a lot of the viewers here are anime onlys anyways. We're going to try and work it out together. You guys can sit in the shadows and laugh at how bad I am as I try and work out who it is. I am 90% it's not King. And if it is King, it is going to be probably the biggest betrayal to Makoto because I trust Makoto and Makoto trusts King. And it's going to be absolutely awful to find out that Makoto has placed his trust in somebody who really is a bad person. So I'm 90% it isn't him. Is it Hiroto? I don't believe he would attack his own men. I think he is just looking for an excuse to start a war with King. I'm just shocked that he is that angry and has that much of an axe to grind with him. So I think I'm most shocked with him, but I don't believe he is Shadow. So I don't think it's that. Unless he's taking a very sick route where he's paying Shadow to attack his men like we saw with the YouTube video guy who was paying people to attack him. I don't think it's that case. I really don't think he would go to the lengths, especially the fact that they're being beaten up beyond recognition. So it's not just a simple beating. It looks awful. So I don't think it's Hiroto. Do I think it's the Red Angels? I know I said I was 90% it wasn't the Red Angels. I am going to lower that and put it as I am 80% it is not the Red Angels. I personally believe it's the Kanzai group, but we don't know who is working with the Kanzai group. King says, somebody is aware of our weak spots. So whoever it is has inside knowledge on the G-Boys. Kind of places doubt on whether I think it is the Red Angels because I don't think the Red Angels would have that kind of information. But it's just odd that we've had a few odd screenshots of Isekai walking on a bridge and the ending with Koichi looking up into the sky and the cats hissing. Whether that's more that they sense that the war is there and it's more them preparing themselves for what's coming, hopefully. I'm just nervous because we've got the OP where we see Koichi squaring up against King. OPs generally do that thing where they'll spoil an anime and they'll show what happens in the future. We haven't seen Koichi go up against King yet, so whether that is going to come still, I don't know. But at the same time, if he's attacking King, maybe he thinks it's King and then I don't know. So I'm 80%. If anything right now, I guess I'm more suspicious of the Red Angels and the Kanzai group. But I've gone through my reasoning why it could be any of these groups. I'm just excited. I think the anime's finally really stepping up the stakes. We're at the halfway point now. We're on episode 6. The anime is getting damn spicy, guys. Very spicy. The only person I 100% trust is Makoto, because obviously Makoto is our hero for justice. It's not him. And as well, he definitely acts like a mediator throughout the entire episode. I trust Makoto. He's the only person I trust right now. But man, is this anime getting spicy. I am very anxious to see how part 2 of the Winter War continues. Are we going to see Hiroto go back to the G-Boys? It's quite sad to see King lose his number 2. I thought they were quite a cool pairing. Quite sad to see him leave the group. But yeah, very interesting to see where it goes. It's all starting to take place. I still have my eye on this Kansai group because they've been mentioned a few times. I don't think animes or even the team would mention something twice now and it not have an importance later down the line. I think they're subtly dropping things in with this, and I think it's important to keep our eye on that Kansai group. Also, think it's important to keep an eye on this directors section, just because I know it just feels out of place. Out of the entire episode we saw today, that sequence of him actually filming and him being part of this video, they even honed in on the information about that camera being set up. I'm wondering if that's going to come back next episode. So I would not be surprised if that means something. That's how I stand at the end of this episode. It's been a fantastic episode. Probably one of my favourite episodes. Definitely anxiety inducing because I'm very worried now. I don't trust anybody apart from Makoto. But that is the episode, guys. Reminder of the channel schedule. Sunday to Monday, we have the Moriarty breakdowns. Moriarty the Patriot. We talk about Victorian England, history, the works. Definitely shaping up to be my most intense videos of the week. It takes a lot of time for me to make those ones. Monday, Tuesday, Golden Kamui. Definitely having fun with this one. Absolutely loving the 3rd season. Think it's amazing. Wednesday mornings to Thursdays is Ikebukuro West Gate Park. Thursday afternoons is Noodles. I think it's more Thursdays when you guys get your hands on it. And Saturday, depending on where you are in the world, is Journey of Elena. Definitely the most prettiest anime of the season. I hope you guys are staying safe wherever you are in the world. Have a good one, and we'll see you next week to find out what is going on. Bye-bye, guys.